Our next guest is brought to you by the Arnold Palmer designed Whistler Golf Club, now open for the 2024 season and playing to rave reviews. Saw some of the photography and joy from the players who got on there opening weekend. Tee times for any time during the 2024 season can be booked online now. And if you have a group of 12 or more, the group organizer, plays for free. For more information or to book online, visit whistlergolf.com. Joined now by our Canucks reporter, Rink-Wide Vancouver's Jeff Paterson, who is in Edmonton covering the series after a spicy Game 3. How we doing, J-Pat?
Good. I saw some of that video from Whistler as well. Looks spectacular. I'm delighted to be here in Edmonton covering this series because it is getting heated and getting good. But my mind was drifting to the fairways of Whistler.
Incidentally, that one bear there
goes very well, that course.
That one bear that tackled the other bear did get a game suspension. They looked at it and said it crossed the line. So
George Peros, after an extensive interview.
Yeah.
Was that the bear that grabbed the flagstick and cross-checked? Is that?
And those things don't break,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Boy, the physicality's picked up. It's spicy off the ice, press box everywhere on the ice. The series is officially launched,
Hey,
Jeff Paterson.
This is exactly what you get for a one anthem Canadian on Canadians.
And exactly what we all wanted. Like, come on.
Right.
This is the, like, think of the past springs, guys, where we've all been sideline observers to everything that's going on and wishing that we could be in the middle of it, and the players and the hockey club. And here they are now into round 2 with a 2-1 lead on the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, crazy with the shots on goal and the territorial advantage. But at the end of the night, did they outscore the Oilers? Yes, they did. Do they have a lead in this series? Yes, they do. Have they taken back home ice advantage? Indeed, they have. Now, there are storylines galore. But, you know, the way the game unfolded with the Oilers opening the scoring on a power play, like that just felt like the script that not only the Oilers, but their fan base wanted to see early in the hockey game. And for the Canucks to counter 3 minutes later with a power play goal of their own, I thought that was a massive part of that game because it settled the Canucks down. And obviously they built on that lead in the first period. Guys, it was loud early and it got really quiet at the end of the first period. In fact, I kind of thought that the Oilers might get booed off the ice on home ice after 20 minutes of play. Clearly, there are goaltending issues here. We know the Canucks have had their goaltending drama as well. So storylines for days, the way you want in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, so as we move into Game 3 here, Jeff, like what storylines are you following closest? Which ones are the ones that are resonating with you?
I think for me, it's the Oilers' lack of depth, that their stars have come to play. Guys, 3 games into the series, the Oilers have 3 goals from forwards, and you can guess who the 3 are. I did not expect that 3 games into the series, the Oilers would have more goals from defensemen than they have from forwards. And so the question, you're going to continue to get the effort and probably the production from McDavid and Draisaitl and Hyman, but like, where is the rest of their roster? And that's the question that's obviously being asked here in Edmonton. And I think for me, the other thing is, look, the Canucks have more power plays than the Oilers do through 3 games, which is a victory in and of itself. And while the Oilers are 4 for 8 on the power play, 50%, 2 massive kills in the third period for the Vancouver Canucks. They give up 2, and yet their penalty kill rose to the challenge in the third period. But the fact that the Oilers have 4 power play goals and it's being offset by 3 power play goals from the Vancouver Canucks, again, like, you know, if you told me 3 games into this thing that the Canucks would have had more power plays and that they would have been outscored by 1 with the man advantage, I think the Canucks would have signed up for that all day, every day. And so here we are. And that's one of the reasons, you know, at 5-on-5, they've outscored the Oilers 7-5 so far in this series.
And the, you know, the unintended consequences of that for Knobloch, of the bench not helping out at all for him, is that, you know, half an hour a game, 30 minutes a game for Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid is not sustainable. They are the most skilled players on the planet, but they're made out of the same matter as everybody else. They cannot do that for multiple games in a row and then still be at their best, right? Like, you're going to get a law of diminishing returns here on those players.
Well, if you're out there 30 minutes, you up the odds that you're going to absorb physical contact, whether it's in the game or after the final buzzer, whatever the case, like, you're putting yourself in harm's way. And that's part of it as well. Now, easier said than done to go and hit McDavid, but if you can get a body on any of those guys at every opportunity, like, yeah, there's that compounding effect over the course of a long series. And look, even if the Oilers do come back, and I'm not ruling the Edmonton Oilers out of the series, but you're right, for a team that had these designs on winning the Stanley Cup, that just does not seem at all to me like any kind of blueprint for a lengthy journey here in the spring of 2024.
And Jeff, Blake and I had a bit of a debate about this after game 2, because I think it's sustainable for the Oilers to win this series. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm not sure you can win a cup with your best forwards playing 28, 29 minutes a night over 4 rounds. But if it's just Knobloch's formula for trying to get through this series, it is one I think could work, and one the Canucks are going to have to contend with.
The Canucks are lucky that there's no extended breaks. Remember in Nashville, there was 2 breaks of 2 days. This is every other day. Like that works against the Edmonton Oilers here, Jeff.
Yeah, and look, like, we can sit here and say, hey, getting outshot 22-3 in the third period, that's not sustainable either. But that's the way the Canucks have gone about their business. And, again, they have more wins than the Oilers do in the series. They've won 6 of their 9 games in the playoffs, and they've done it on the back of a third-string goaltender. So, sometimes there's things that just don't make sense, but you keep doing them until they don't work anymore. And for the Oilers, you're right. Like, Knobloch's hands are tied because, where's Evander Kane? Where's Warren Foegele? Where's Dylan Holloway? Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has 4 points. 3 of them have come on the power play. He hasn't done a lot 5-on-5 either. And it goes on and on. And they're playing the waiting game here, but the clock is ticking. And now, as it was after one game, the Canucks have a real opportunity to turn up the heat here and put the screws to Edmonton if they can get the job done again. Now, it's a big if, and give the Oilers an opportunity to respond the way that in game number 2. But, the Canucks aren't afraid of being out on the road here. They're 4-0. They're the only team in the playoffs that's got to 4 wins on the road so far this spring. So 3 in Nashville, and they found a way to grind it out here on Sunday night in game number 4. So, like, to me, again, all the pressure has been, I think the pressure was on the Oilers at the outset of the series, but right now it has been shifted back to the Edmonton Oilers, and we'll see if it's more than 3 or 4 guys that show up and contribute on Tuesday night in game 4.
Yeah. Oilers' lack of depth, Oilers giving up power play goals to the Canucks, 2 big problems for them, no doubt. But I think the biggest one is their goaltending yet again.
Yeah.
So question, Jeff, are the Canucks in Stuart Skinner's head? Did Chris Knobloch get in Stuart Skinner's head with that pull, or is just Stuart Skinner in Stuart Skinner's head as we move to game 3 here?
Yeah, I could probably say a little bit of everything there. This has been a narrative in Edmonton with 2 of the best players of their generation, and they show up every year in the playoffs, and they've done it again. They're leading the playoffs in scoring, and yet they have trouble getting saves. And I think everybody here thought that Stuart Skinner had taken some strides and had made progress and had looked like a legitimate number 1 goaltender, the way that they used him, the way that he responded like the team did after the coaching change. But, man, I gave up 5 in the second game of the the Los Angeles series in round number 1. And it's just been too easy for the Canucks to put pucks past him. And so, I sat in on the Chris Knobloch post-game press conference last night, and just about every question, even though we just talked about the fact that there hasn't been a lot of depth scoring, like 80% of the questions to the coach were about goaltending and needing more saves, and would he start him, and has he lost his confidence, and how is he going to respond, all those types of things. So absolutely talking point number 1 here on the ground in Edmonton. But I'm seeing national reporters now writing these same stories about, is this going to be the same undoing for the Edmonton Oilers? And until Stuart Skinner rises to the challenge, then yes, that's an ongoing storyline. And Knobloch wouldn't commit to starting him in game 4. Jack Campbell is here as their 3rd goaltender, and there was some talk. We've seen the Canucks 3rd stringer. Will we see the Canucks or the Oilers go that deep on their goaltending roster as well? So again, one of the storylines, a prominent storyline, and no answers today, but let's see what the light of day brings on Tuesday with a morning skate, and if we can glean a little bit more intel on what the Edmonton Oilers are thinking. Because the question now might not even be who's starting, but who's going to finish for them on a given night.
Very good, Jeff.
Just imagine, though.
It's got to be Skinner, though, right? I think they have to go.
I think they're starting Skinner, yeah. Just imagine if they got more shots on Skinner, too, though. I know Rick Tocchet wasn't super pleased at how they finished that game. How did you interpret his post-game post-mortem on, their parking of the bus.
Yeah, they thought that they did a much better job defending, even though the shots were 22-3, and the Oilers had, I think, 8 or 9 power play shots in that third period. I really didn't like the second period, to be perfectly honest. They'd done well to build the 3-1 lead, and then it felt like they hadn't learned anything from Friday night, where they sat back and tried to defend, and the Oilers just came at them in waves and ultimately won that game in overtime. I thought it got a little dicey in the second period, and the Canucks got a power play. I think it was Ekholm that took a penalty late in the second period. Canucks didn't do anything with it, but it felt like 2 minutes where they were just able to exhale a little bit. And I thought over the final 3 or 4 minutes of the period, because then Darnell Nurse took that penalty, and look, we can talk about officiating. That was a bad call. That was a weak call on Darnell Nurse in a tight game. And the Canucks capitalized. They took advantage, and that was Lindholm scoring what turned out to be the game winner. So that was a pivotal point in the hockey game, because they had posts. They had the couple of pucks that were in the blue paint around the goal line. They came close on a couple of occasions, but close doesn't count. And ultimately, the Canucks cashed in on their limited opportunities. So, it's funny, the shot discrepancy, but if you look at the underlying numbers, the high dangers in that third period, weren't anywhere close to what you think they might have been, given how much territory the Oilers had there. So I do think that, the proof's in the pudding a little bit. Rick Tocchet was quick to give praise to his assistant coaches, didn't name names, but obviously Adam Foote and Mike Yeo. He thought they did a great job between games, just trying to tweak some things defensively. Said they had a really good video session the morning of Game 3, and he thought that went a long way to helping the Canucks, again, keep the Oilers to the outside. Guys, 3 games into this series, Connor McDavid has 5 points. 4 of them came on Friday night. So you do the math there. The other 2 games, they've done a pretty good job of keeping him to the perimeter.
They held him pointless one night. They held him without a shot on goal the other night. No, they through totality of the series, they've done a very good job on McDavid.
Let's ask you roster decisions here. Let's assume a Soucy suspension. What do you think they do back there? And let's assume the PDG is available to the Vancouver Canucks. We don't know that to be true. But if Rick Tocchet has everybody at his disposal, needs to fill a defense spot, and could tweak the forward spots, what do you think he does?
I don't think he touches the forwards. I think he was pretty happy with what he saw. Linus Karlsson far more engaged in a pressure cooker playoff appearance than he was in any of the 4 games that he played earlier in the season. I thought he won some board battles, away from the puck. Didn't look lost in the moment here. Niels Amon, underlying numbers weren't great, but guys, he played 1 game. He played game 82 in Winnipeg, basically as a token appearance in the last 6 weeks. And then he gets thrown in and is killing penalties in the third period against that power play. Come on. That's a high leverage moment. And again, pulling on the rope in the right direction. So I don't think you tinker with those guys. Did I love the idea of parking a 24-goal scorer, Nils Höglander? Not necessarily, but I also know that Nils Höglander hasn't looked any bit like that regular season Höglander in these playoffs. So I didn't have a huge issue with Tocchet. I mean, buck stops with him. He's got to make those calls and live with the consequences, but they win the hockey game. So I would think you're probably going to see more of them on and Karlsson on defense. That's, if Soucy is suspended, and as we record, we don't know that. Look, Carson Soucy's underlying numbers have been brutal, but he's had the McDavid-Draisaitl matchup, and yet through all the brutal underlying numbers, the Canucks have outscored the Oilers 3-2 at 5-on-5. So even though territorially he's been defending a ton, it really hasn't cost the Canucks on the scoreboard. And look, he's got the size, the reach, the length, the disruptive nature of the way that he plays. They will miss Carson Soucy without a doubt. And I thought it was kind of cool to hear Rick Tocchet. He name-checked Tyler Myers last night as one of the guys that he thought really stood out. And I would agree. I think Tyler Myers is playing some of the best hockey that he's played in a Vancouver Canuck uniform. We just haven't had the chance to see him rise to the occasion of playoff hockey because the team hasn't been in the postseason nearly enough. But for all the naysayers over the years, and look, I got it early on, but Tyler Myers right now really becoming a valuable piece for the Vancouver Canucks.
He has, absolutely. I thought all the big guys have been really good. Nikita Zadorov was once again front and center. Jeff, he's 29 years of age. How come he's not a household name in the NHL? I didn't watch him closely as a member of the Colorado Avalanche, and is a good playoff season there. But the guy's an absolute beast, stuffing Kane into the locker there. I mean, He's just everywhere. He's front and center. How come it's 29 years old before Nikita Zadorov is making headlines in the NHL?
Yeah, look, I think he's a bit of a unique character, and I don't know that he's everybody's flavor. I think in Calgary, there were some stories that maybe he had rubbed some teammates the wrong way. Yeah, he's a flashy guy. We see it in the clothes that he wears. And, again, to each their own. Like, I'm not here to knock him at all. I mean, I'm having a ball watching him perform at the highest levels here. But I do wonder if, earlier in his career, maybe there was some attitude or, I wasn't there along the stops, but it does kind of feel like he has settled in. It sounds like he and his family absolutely love Vancouver. So, we'll
there's a maturation. Yeah, for sure.
No, I mean, we all grow up at different times, whatever the case. When the lights are brightest, this guy has been invaluable to the Vancouver Canucks. And, that's another piece of the puzzle here, guys, that isn't really getting a ton of run, but probably should, with the way that Elias Lindholm is playing and Nikita Zadorov. Like, Jim Rutherford looks like he did it again, getting ahead of the market, identifying his targets, bringing them in. And, was the regular season performance a little spotty? Yeah, but they were both brought in to bolster this lineup for the playoffs. 14 points between the two of them. And Lindholm leads this team in power play goals, game-winning goals. He's second only to Boeser. And I thought he was terrific last night. And Zadorov's just been consistently good throughout the playoffs. And so, you look at the Canucks, could they have used another scoring winger at the deadline? Sure. But in terms of the players that they identified and targeted, credit to management and pro scouting, because it looks like they got it right with both of these guys. And they have both been contributors in this series, but also through the playoffs. And it shows with Lindholm. Like, clearly he wasn't healthy there over those final few weeks, but that first shift, like, that's as determined as I am.
Oh, wow.
Talk about announcing his arrival and his intentions for the night. The big hit on Bouchard, takes the puck to the net, had a great scoring chance there, doesn't score, but, contributes twice, and including the game winner up to 5 goals now in the playoffs.
Do you consider Paterson with Lindholm? Do you consider that to get Paterson going, or just keep as is lineup combinations?
Who's that now?
Paterson. I see what you did there.
Good.
I see what
Honestly,
you did there.
guys, like, there were, incremental steps and he scored and people thought that was going to relieve the burden. I thought last night was a return to the first 5 games of the Nashville series, the final 20 games of the regular season. Like, there just wasn't much there for Elias Paterson. And again, this is part of this thing that the Canucks have won 6 of their 9 playoff games with a third-string goaltender and next to no contributions from an 89-point producer. So,
hey,
I don't know where it goes from here. I'm sort of back to square one with your guess is as good as mine is what we're going to see from Elias Paterson in Game 4.
A couple of things. Number one, talk about things that are unsustainable. The Oilers forwards playing 30 minutes a night. The Canucks not getting shots on goal. Elias Paterson not scoring. The Stanley Cup playoffs deliver us some weird things that we got to negotiate.
Can you imagine being an out-of-market fan?
No, I know.
Because, in the playoffs, guys, you tune into games that you wouldn't otherwise watch, An out-of-market fan tuning in to watch Elias Paterson. Oh, I've heard about this guy. It's supposed to be really good. And then you watch that game, you're like, what?
You watch 9 games and go,
right,
what's going on here? I don't get it. As for Zadorov, and honestly, I thought the Gillis regime did a really good job of sort of educating us on these sorts of things. Players have things in their lives that sometimes affect their play. In Nikita's case, it is clear he's had sort of a crisis of conscience with regards to Russia, the way that state behaves, and it's affected the relationship with his family as well, right? As he outlined. So, there's a lot going on with these players sometimes more than just the
humans
the physical and the developmental from a hockey perspective. Jeff, I can't believe we're nearly 20 minutes into this, and just now I'm getting to ask you about the officiating, but what do you make of the officiating in this series through 3 games?
Well, I mean, from a Canucks perspective, again, they've had more power plays than the Oilers have. And, did I like the non-call on McDavid the other night? I thought Quinn Hughes, captain, a star. Corey Perry broke his stick across his back with a cross-check. Evander Kane had a slew foot, and then the McDavid high stick, and Quinn can't get a call. So, I don't like that, because if McDavid's going to get to his, then I think it has to be some degree of a two-way street. But again, like the Darnell Nurse penalty in a really pivotal point of that hockey game, you got to let these guys play to a degree. So it feels like they're looking for calls at times. Just the mere fact, though, that, you know, I sometimes wonder if the Oilers' power play works against them. The referees realize what an absolute nuclear deterrent it is. And the fact that 3 games into this thing, they've only had the 8 power plays, and I think one of them lasted 24 seconds because there was some overlap in game number 2. So, you know, you have to rise above in playoff hockey. Like, you're not going to love every call. I think there have been some that have gone both ways here. You know, Soucy, it's a cross check to the face. Like, you can't have that, even if it's not McDavid. You can't, and that's not Carson Soucy's MO generally, but playoff hockey, it gets heated. The thing that drives me nuts, though, guys, is, you know, and I pointed this out on Twitter, that Michael McCarron absolutely went bowling for Casey DeSmith in round 1. Like, that's a big man and a goaltender, and he made no attempt to avoid contact. There was a 2-minute penalty and a $2,000 fine the next day. Zadorov's cross-check, you see that in net front battles on every power play at both ends of the ice, and somehow that's $5,000. And then Sam Bennett's running around in another series, clocking guys with, you know, absolute knockout punches, and nothing in the moment and nothing after the fact. Like, how can it ever make any sense? My head hurts trying to even contemplate what goes on there at NHL headquarters.
Gregory Campbell vehemently disagrees with you on that one, by the way. Gregory Campbell.
Oh, okay. Not Coley.
But I do think
they're both involved in this equation.
You know, that's the supplemental side. I think within the games here, the fact that the power plays have been 9-8 for the Canucks, 3 a night, essentially, that works in the Canucks' favor. Like, there hasn't been a night yet where the Oilers have had 5 or 6, and look out if they do. But for the most part, you know, 5-on-5 is where the Canucks want it, and that's where it has been played primarily through 3 games of this series.
And it's been a lot of fun so far, and we look forward to more fun, and we look forward to more JPAT analysis, not to mention more rink-wide Vancouvers after Game 4 on Tuesday. Thank you for this, Jeff. You have a wonderful day there in the Alberta capital, and we'll catch up with you later in the week.
A little less smoky today, which is good. When I landed on Saturday, this big
I heard
forest fire in northern BC, and I guess the wind's pushing it this way. It just seems too early in the calendar year for it, but it was choking here. They had a little bit of rain on Sunday, which I think tamped it down a bit. So, yes, you know, I want to be able to see the sights of Edmonton. I want the view out of my hotel window, so the forest fire smoke wasn't helping in that regard.
Cheeky.
It's a lovely river valley. Really is.
I can't see it, but I hear.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.